Hello, welcome to this video. On this video, I am going to be ranking the James Bond films. Now, I recently ranked the Carry On films, and I said that I felt that in some strange way, the Carry On films held hands with the James Bond films, covering a similar period and also dealing with certain aspects of British culture. Now, the reason why I didn't want to take on the James Bond films is because there's many films in that list that I am not so up on, and so I had to go and find a James Bond expert, and I have found the James Bond expert. Now, some of you may look at this gentleman and think, well, that's not a James Bond expert, that's progressive rock legend Tim Bowness, one half of No Man. Hello Tim.
Well, I'm not quite sure an expert, but I was introduced to Bond in the late 60s when I was tiny. And my dad didn't have a date. My mum refused to go to the Warrington Odeon to watch the Bond films. And there used to be still double bills of Bond films. And so I must have been like 4 or 5 when I was going to cinema. And I remember this cloud of smoke and choking. But what I do remember is the atmosphere of the films, especially the John Barry music. And really from about 1971 onwards, when I was 7, I was allowed to go to the films myself. My parents would pay the money, get me in, say, look, make sure he's okay afterwards. And when I was a kid, I had a phenomenal collection of James Bond memorabilia from, Roger Moore's book to the programmes. You used to get programmes at James Bond films. You may not remember this, but Live and Let Die, Man with the Golden Gun. You could buy programmes at the actual showings. And so I had a collection of these books. James Bond annuals were around at the time, and of course the John Barry soundtracks. And the John Barry soundtracks were my introduction to music, really, as well.
Yeah, so and a similar thing for me. I can remember in the 70s, probably just when I was really sort of getting into films, they announced that they were going to have Dr. No on mainstream television, and it was a big deal. Yeah, it was. And they showed it over and over again, the advert for it. I thought, I've got to watch this. And so from that point on, I was at that age that in the UK through the 70s, you got Dr. No, and then I think they put From Russia with Love, and they went through bit by bit. And so I was following them through until The Spy Who Loved Me came out, and then I went to see that at the Pictures. Okay. And then, of course, Moonraker after that. So they were my sort of cinema bonds, which we will be discussing here at length, But I think because we're going to be chatting about the films, so we just get straight in there. So how many films are we dealing with, Tim?
Oh, my God.
We need to know that.
Do you want to count the unofficial ones as well, or not?
No, I don't. So I don't think we're going to be counting Casino Royale, the sort of comedy spoof James Bond that came out in 1968 or 69. I'm not too sure what year. Or even the Sean Connery comeback, which was, if that calls Never Say Never Again, that came out in the early 80s.
It was, yeah.
I think it would be interesting to come back to those. I want to deal with the pure proper
the official
Bonds. Yeah, I think
well,
so.
It looks like there's 25 on this list, but
that sounds about right. Yeah,
that sound right.
And a ranking of 25 is a difficult. We've got a difficult task ahead.
Very, very difficult. I mean, those 2 unofficial films I've watched, of course, and quite enjoy them. I mean, Casino Royale, which is co-written with Woody Allen, who stars in it, is very funny in parts. It's got one of my favourite pieces of music of all time, which is The Look of Love.
That's beautiful.
And David.
Yeah, and who was the actress? Is
oh, you're right.
Ursula Andress walks in, doesn't she? As they're playing it.
And they said that Hal David wrote the lyrics when he saw Ursula Andress for the first time, and it's so beautiful.
Yeah, and it's so Bondy as well, isn't it?
It's so Bondy.
For that type of a tune, yes.
And Never Say Never Again, actually not bad film. I would say bettered by Octopussy. The only downside on that, I think the music isn't as good, because they've not got Barry, they've not really got... The whole Bond design is off kilter on that film, but it's a pretty decent film.
Yes, I think we'll come back to those, because there's also the Matt Helms.
Oh,
right.
Okay.
And then there's the In Like Flynn's with James Coe. So there's a whole bunch of sort of, and then of course Ipcress File.
But I mean, they are as good, but it's the same team behind Ipcress File.
So there's a lot of sort of Bonder-likes, and they're all very interested in the 60s.
Man from Uncle.
Yeah, Man from Uncle, yes. That's
Avengers, you could possibly argue.
I think so, yes. I think you're definitely right there. So, shall we start at number 25? What's the worst James Bond film?
It's so difficult, because I enjoy them all. And I think what you could do with a Bond film is this. is it a good film? Is it a good Bond film? And these can be two separate things. A good Bond film may not be a great film in cinematic terms, but you can have great films that are also great Bond films, and great films that actually aren't particularly good Bond films. My lowest, I think it's For Your Eyes Only.
Cut price Bond.
It is, well, exactly. I mean, I think part of the thing is it's the little version of James Bond.
It is.
And there's no excuse for it. Because at this point, it's one of the world's biggest franchises, barring Star Wars. There's a lot of money invested in this. There are a lot of people going to the cinema. And I went to see this at the cinema. And Moonraker, which I don't feel is altogether successful, was a huge budgetary expense, and it looked the part. This is the thing also with Bond films. When they start in the early 60s, they look as good, if not better, than any other film in the cinema around.
Yeah, they do, yeah.
Moonraker looks as good as any film in the cinema. You get to For Your Eyes Only, and it's in a totally different league. It's suddenly gone from Premier League to the Isthmian League, if that still exists.
Well, I always remember, it seemed, they advertised it. They went, oh, Bond's gone all low budget, and he's not got the flashy cars, he's got a Citroen CV or something. And it was all gone very sort of Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy. You know, Moonraker was so outlandish, I think they wanted to pull it in.
Yeah.
And I think there's a seediness to the early Bonds, which is set within swinging London, which is really cool. Yeah. But when you then pull back to sort of the early 1980s, you know, Thatcher Falkland Islands, it's all a bit bleak, and it was bleak, and even the colours seemed bleached out.
I know, and you're right, it's like the Aston Martin becomes a Citroen 2CV. And there's something funny in that, I agree. But
and another Bond could have got away with it. But not Roger Moore, the most ebullient of the Bonds. I mean, his name is Roger Moore.
It is true. But it's all, you know, I think it's Julian Glover as the villain in this, and Robert Wyatt's half-brother. Did you know that?
Really?
Yeah.
No way.
They cannot stand each other.
Really?
They are related, yeah. Look it up, it's all true.
That's incredible facts. This could go on the main channel now, you said that. Bit of Robert Wyatt facts. And I didn't know it as well.
It's just very, you know, the point is, it's not a good film. You know, in 1981 in the cinema, and I went there, Warrington Odeon, me and about 15 other people. It's not a good film compared to what else I'm watching on the cinema at that point. Nor is it a good Bond film, because the little nature of the cut price scenes doesn't quite work. And it's also got that slightly Euro cheesiness, hamminess that hampered some of the later Roger Moore films. And as well as that, I think you have, is this the one with Janet Brown imitating Margaret Thatcher at the end?
Yes.
And there's a parrot.
Yeah.
I mean, Octopussy goes full on Carry On Bond, and I quite like that. But this, it's not funny.
No, it's just boring.
Good.
I just remember thinking it was really boring. I think the way to describe it would probably be Roger-less.
Exactly. Let's go with that.
Shall we go with that and move on?
Move on quickly. 2015, Spectre is the next one.
Yes. Now, I have watched all the Daniel Craig Bonds very recently.
Okay.
Because I hadn't watched any of them. I boycotted them for some reason, just probably because I'm an old git.
Just because he's from Cheshire.
It's because he's blonde, but I don't mind Roger Moore and he's blonde. Anyway, the point is, I watched them all the other day, and some of them were brilliant and some of them weren't so good, but I can't remember which one's which. So which one's Spectre? Right,
Spectre, I think, is the penultimate Bond film, If You Take No Time to Die.
Yeah.
And it's where the story... Because in effect, you know, the whole Daniel Craig tenure has been about a person becoming James Bond. And of course, not to give too many spoilers away, but he becomes James Bond and then he's killed.
He can't kill Bond.
But he kills Bond, doesn't
he? Yeah.
And I agree with you. I think that Daniel Craig actually is a great Bond.
Right, yeah, I was surprised.
And he's a really good actor. He brings a real range to the character. But for me, I think he's in 2 or 3 of the best Bonds ever, and 2 Bonds that are really not good. And it's not that they're not good films, they're actually quite good films. You know, again, 2015, Spectre, production values against Mission Impossible, against Bourne. Good. They're good modern films. He's a good actor. I think the opening scene in that one is the one that's in Mexico City. I think it's that one that's dazzling. You know, the one very, very good. But Spectre, and I'm going for his other one, you know, later, we don't just talk very much about it, they commit the crime of just being boring.
Well, I watched them all. Some of them I really enjoyed, and I think as they went through, the first two were really good, Casino Royale and whatever the one after this, you have to remind me which one that is. And then I sort of lost, I was like drifted off, and they seemed to be quite a lot there that I just didn't register. And then, of course, the last one, that's a different thing altogether because it's so weird.
Yeah, you've got Casino Royale, Quantum of Solace,
which I think was very good. Solace was
Skyfall,
yeah,
Spectre, and then No Time to Die. And so and yeah, you're right. It's there's no drop in quality particularly, but one of the things that a lot of the Bond films suffer from is being overlong, and I think this is kind of overlong. And again, I've kind of forgotten it. That's the other thing as well. Spectre, and to a certain extent, Quantum of Solace, I've forgotten. And they're not good signs, really, unless it is incipient Alzheimer's. Yes,
I think there could be the fact that if you get too serious with a Bond, it starts to get boring.
Yeah.
It's not the weight of John le Carré, or it's not that type of a spy film. It is flim-flam in a way.
Yeah.
So when they do sometimes go, well, let's get all serious, and you've got an actor like Daniel Craig, which I felt when I watched him, I thought this is the first one they've actually got that has the danger of Sean Connery. Sean Connery was funny, but he was also dangerous. Yeah. And Craig is very dangerous. He's not quite as funny, though.
He's not. I mean, he tried. You can see it from about the second and third film onwards. Especially, I think, from Skyfall, he's cracking the gags.
Yeah.
And they're not far off Roger Moore at this stage. But I know exactly what you mean, and he's got a real intensity, I think.
But these are just a little bit too serious, aren't they? They're taking themselves too seriously.
And the plots are too convoluted as well. I think that's part of the problem as well. And, there are so many, as you said, there were Bond imitations at the time during the spy craze of the 60s. But equally, I think everybody wants to do a Bond in some ways. And you can argue that Mission Impossibles have become Tom Cruise's Bond films. And they're brilliant. They've become better with each film in some ways. Bourne's were clearly an attempt at a new Bond. So, and I think that was it. That in some ways, they didn't take themselves too seriously. They have got interesting plots. But you can see that, Tom Cruise is having a whale of a time in his Bond film.
But it's not quite like a Bond, is it? Well, I think when we get to the end, we'll have to try and work out what makes something a Bond. Because I've got a theory about it, you see.
I'm interested.
Yes. So what we got at number 23?
We've got Quantum of Solace, which basically you can say everything. Although my only story about Quantum of Solace is that my partner, Liz, we went to see it in the cinema. And we both actually enjoyed it. We thought, this is a good Bond. And we normally give ratings to the films that we see. And she said, yeah, that's kind of an 8 out of 10, really. Not bad. Interesting. Quite atmospheric. I enjoyed it. We agreed. And then the next day, I was sticking at my original 7.5 out of 10. She said, yeah, it's sort of a 7 out of 10, isn't it? And by the end of the week, without having rewatched it, she was down to 3 out of 10. And this was partly...
I can remember this one. I thought it had a lot of style, this one. It does, more than Casino Royale in a way.
It does,
and incredible action sequences. Mm-hmm. The Quantum of Solace, I can remember just being almost like, I can't believe this is happening. He's jumping off, catching the moon, swinging around Mars, dropping back down, driving a helicopter. It was really incredible.
He's not driving a fire engine through LA or San Francisco, is he?
No, he's not doing that. We'll get onto that in a bit. But much the same, really.
I like them.
I liked Quantum of Solace.
I like Quantum of Solace.
Yeah.
But what I think Liz was getting at was that she felt that Craig wasn't her idea of a Bond, that it had lost a lot of the fun of the films. When she reflected on it, she said, well, actually, it's not got the fun.
It hasn't.
It's not got the adventure.
That's why I did want to go and see the Craigs.
And equally, it wasn't quite as memorable. I mean, the point is that, decades after me seeing Spy Who Loved Me in the cinema, I can still tell you sequences from it.
And the thing is, with a proper Bond, they always put a couple of things in, whether it's jumping off the back of alligators or flipping a car or driving a car through a little gap. There's always that bit, or jumping off a cliff with the skis with a parachute. And there's always something in there, whereas you go, which one's that? You go, the one with Bond in that. Yeah. Whereas this, we're having difficulty. I'm not quite sure what film I'm talking about, really. I can remember the titles. I can't even remember the song. It's probably Quantum of Silence.
But yeah, I can't remember much about it. I think that's part of it.
Yeah, that's
and
it, yeah.
That a week afterwards, it had become 3 out of 10 because she'd forgotten it.
Yeah.
And they thought, you know what? It's too serious for its own good.
Move on.
And I agree with her. Okay, 1979. Now, I know we're going to disagree about this one.
Yes, here we go. Right down near the bottom.
I was at the cinema on this. Moonraker.
Moonraker. One of the greatest of the Bonds.
Look, for me, okay, this is where the Bonds slightly fall by the 70s. In the 60s, now think of this as like we can get into progressive rock or rock artists here. In the 60s, James Bond is defining cinema with its cinematography, its incredible set design. Was it Ken Adam or something like that, whatever his name was? Incredible set design, incredible music. The cinematography is stunning. Not only that, Connery defines cool for a generation. The films of Bond in the 60s defined cinema in the 60s. They're trailblazing. By 1973, and I love this film, Live and Let Die. Live and Let Die is chasing, ever so slightly after the event, blaxploitation. A year later, Man with the Golden Gun is chasing kung fu films. Spy Who Loved Me actually isn't chasing anything. Spy Who Loves Me is, oh shit, let's make a great James Bond movie. But then by 79, 80, they're thinking, Star Wars, that's doing well. I know, let's have James Bond in space. And it's like the dumbest idea in history for me.
But the thing is that, say if you've got the James Bond franchise, at some point it has to be pushed to this point. You have to push it. It's like all the things that are wrong with those first three. Yeah. Moonraker's got in spades, and it's going to make you're going to vomit if you have Moonraker. I can remember sitting in the cinema, and the bit where Jaws is on that cable car, and then it goes crashing all the way through. He goes through a wall. Right, there's probably some comedy that he comes out somebody's mouth on the other side of the wall. He doesn't die, and then he stands up, and there's that blonde girl with the plaits, and then they start playing, the love theme. And I was thinking, what is going on? What is going on? It's like...
Well, I think Moonraker, production values are very high, still they're caring. Moore's performance is good. I think the comedy is played too heavily.
We've just gone so far on it.
The ending is ridiculous when they're in space. This idea of the new eugenics in space is absurd. Jaws and his girlfriend are ridiculous. And when I'm watching in the cinema, I'm disappointed. But the first half of it's quite an atmospheric Bond.
Yeah, it's also got really great Bond bits, and they do all that, and then they also go completely over the top, and it's as though it's like they're on acid, isn't it?
But they've lost confidence. The point is, Spy Who Loved Me, it's a film with confidence. Live and Let Die, though it's kind of slightly after the event chasing blaxploitation, it's doing it with confidence, with elan. This is not confident, I think. But, one of the things is that Moonraker was one of the biggest box office hits of the James Bond franchise.
I had the annual and everything when that one came out. And I've got to be honest, I could watch Moonraker now, and I would enjoy every single second of it, and I can't explain why, because it is rubbish.
Yeah. I watched it again 2 or 3 years ago with my now 14-year-old, and we both enjoyed it. But it's not a good film. The production values might be up there with the cinema of, let's say, Kubrick in 79, 80, The Shining, I think was his release from that period. But, or John Carpenter's The Thing, but it was 81. But the thing is, it's not a good film, and it's not a good Bond film in some ways, because it's too caricatured, too absurd, too much playing into camp comedy.
What if they'd had this bit right at the end when Bond woke up and it had all been a dream?
That would have been great.
That would have solved it all.
It would have been...
It would have been like Bouncer's dream from Neighbours. I don't know if you remember that when Bouncer... Yeah, they had a dream sequence of the dog. Yeah. And it's probably my most memorable thing. I love this film so much. There's so many... I don't think Michael Lonsdale was a very good Bond villain. I think he's one of the worst. That was one of the things I felt. He didn't seem like he was that bad to me.
He had a beard, though.
He did have a beard, but he's not up there with that. But... Yeah, it's so ridiculous. It's just brilliant.
Well, I know what you're saying. It's a ridiculous film, and I'm glad they made it in some respects. But after the confidence of Spy Who Loved Me and the success of Spy Who Loved Me, they didn't need to do that.
No.
They didn't need to chase Battlestar Galactica and Star Wars or Star Trek the motion picture.
Yeah.
They didn't need to do that.
They're actually running after Buck Rogers.
That was good.
So what have we got?
Okay, I've now got one of the most hated, but again I enjoy it, Die Another Day, the very last Pierce Brosnan film, and I think he was mistreated because Brosnan is a great Bond. He's somewhere between Sean Connery and Roger Moore.
He is, yes.
He's got the gags, he's suave, he looks the part. And actually, he steered the franchise really well. Die Another Day, I think music is perhaps one of the weakest films, but it's got some tremendous action sequences, and he does it with conviction. And of course, the invisible car is absurd.
Oh, is it the one with the visitor? This is where I'm really... this is why you needed to come in on this.
Well, I'll tell you the beginning. I think it's one of the greatest Bond beginnings. It's where he's actually in a prison in North Korea, and he grows his hair and looks like a member of the Grateful Dead. For that alone, I'm happy.
I haven't seen. I don't. I remember the car. Does he lose the car?
Does he lose the car? Actually, good point. I wish I could remember.
That's always the danger in an invisible car, isn't it? I mean, when I come out of Tesco's, I can't find mine. Mine's visible.
He can't find his invisible keys. That's part of the problem, yeah. But no, I think he doesn't use it. I think at the end, in the spectacular sequence, as the ice hotel is disintegrating, he does involve his invisible car. But the beginning is very atypical. It's him in North Korea being tortured. You know, as I've said, looking like he's auditioning for Gentle Giant. It's good, it's strong, and his performance is really good. And I think he was really mistreated because, again, people don't realise Die Another Day was one of the biggest Bond films. It was a huge success. And I felt awful for him because what do? He's steered the franchise well. He's had possibly, other than GoldenEye, his biggest success. Let's fire him. And he was very upset, and I can totally understand that.
Yeah, I think the trouble with the Bonds is that, like you said, once you get past... I think it's starting to sag. After Honor Majesty's Secret Service, which was one of the great Bonds.
Yeah.
And then when Sean comes back, that's an admittance that they are, like you say, they're chasing.
Yeah.
And then it's always hanging over them. It's always got to be reinvented. It's always, is this going to be the last Bond? Are we going to do any more?
Yeah.
And that just happened to Pierce Brosnan. He'd done a perfectly good job, I think. But like I said, I don't know these films that well, so we'll move on.
I mean, I don't know why. I think at the moment, and it just goes through in history, for a while Roger Moore was the most hated Bond. Now I think it's Pierce Brosnan. And I think both of them were great in the job, personally. I mean, I've got a theory on my worst Bond, which you're probably not going to agree with, but 1985, and I watched this weekend just for you. A View to a Kill. Roger Moore's swan song. He's looking a bit jaded.
He's a bit too. He's too old for his blue safari suit, isn't he?
Moneypenny's looking a bit jaded. To be fair, Christopher Walken's a really good villain.
Yep.
Grace Jones is fantastic.
Brilliant, yeah.
And it gets better. It's one of those Bond films that actually, it's a little slow. It really starts slowly, and the more you get into it, the more humorous and the more action-packed it becomes. And I like the fact that it doesn't end on tears. It ends as Roger began, which is almost in a shower with a woman. And
he's old enough to be his granddaughter.
So he's old enough to be his granddaughter. But it is hilarious, as I believe Q is looking at him with some kind of robotic dog and the camera. And a Bond is presumably doing something with his end, I believe. But, so... But it's hilarious, and I quite like the fact it doesn't end on a sentimental note with Roger Moore. And it's got some good action sequences. I mean, again, though, chasing, because I thought I'd never made this connection before, but it's an underground mine. And it's identical to the underground mine in the Temple of Doom in the previous year's Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. And clearly they've been looking, okay, where are these big franchise films going? It's following in the footsteps of something else. But he's got a couple of good villains, and the Silicon Valley plot is interesting, So not terrible, but yeah, it's a bit slow. He's looking along into...
It has got a few memorable sequences, if I remember.
Well, it's got the fire engine going through San Francisco.
Yeah. And there's Grace Jones' fight, isn't there? That's a great bit. And isn't there...
the Eiffel Tower
yeah,
is fantastic.
So that's what I mean. You've got those in there. And so it sort of places it. I haven't seen this since it came out in the 1980s. So.
But even the music, John Barry's sounding ever so tired. I mean, they're bringing in people like Duran Duran, and I quite like the Duran Duran tune. But,
yeah, that's a good tune.
You know, but the Barry sequences just seem a little as if I'm not sure I want to do this anymore. And the same with everyone involved. They should have kind of left it at Octopussy. But it's not a bad... You know, it's still enjoyable.
Yeah.
I'm glad I rewatched it. But again, it's not a good film for 1985, nor is it a good Bond film. And there's no excuse when there's so much money in this franchise.
Yeah, so we still haven't got to the line where we have gone into great Bonds yet, have we? There's going to be a certain point, I think I can see where it is, where it's maybe.
Yeah, maybe. Where's it coming? Where's the great Bonds coming?
Because when I did the carry-ons, once you got past a certain point, got about 5 out of the way.
Yeah,
This is great. None of these are terrible, though, are they? There's no carry-on Columbus here, is there? No. Carry On
Emmanuel, there isn't. I mean, we can go through them relatively quickly, but I mean, I've got Tomorrow Never Dies, which is another Pierce Brosnan, and it's good. It's a good Bond. I don't remember.
But why do we want to skip over these? Because the juice is about to come, and we've got much to say, have we?
Because I've not got very much to say, but it's a good, confident Brosnan film, and I feel I'm dismissing it now, faint praise, because we want to move on because people are bored. But there are people out there now watching and saying, "You didn't do justice to that. It's one of Pierce's greatest performances. And you failed to notice the direction." As if it was John Campbell or whoever it was.
Tomorrow Never Dies. I can't even tell you a scene in that one, though.
Now,
you think it's better than View to a Kill, do you?
Yeah.
Why?
Why? I'm trying to remember which Tomorrow Never Dies is. Is this the one that's set in Hong Kong in part? I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I'm not sure now. I'm getting confused. This is part of the problem.
You're here to give... They know I don't know this stuff. I'm going to be brilliant in a minute. But I'll probably be good on the ones you know as well. In my brain at the moment, I've got 25 Bond films swirling, and they're all mixed up. Yeah. And it's like the end of Harry Potter when he's morphing into Voldemort.
Yeah.
It's like Timothy Dalton and Pierce Brosnan, they're morphing into each other.
It's like, my favourite film is Die Another Death. I'm getting all confused now. What is it?
Let's move on, because I think the next one we've got a treat here.
Yeah.
So what we got above that one? I don't know what the number is.
But, Octopussy.
Octopussy's great.
Hated by people, but I actually really like it. I watched.
Do you think this is the underrated, forgotten Bond that actually delivers everything you want from a Bond?
Yeah.
As it's Roger Moore. He's a classic Bond. You have to take Roger Moore for what he is. But in the Roger Wildmore
Roger Wildmore, yeah.
In the Roger Moore world.
Yeah.
This is one of the good ones, isn't it? And I think it packs a punch, and it's almost like they off the For Your Eyes Only. They learned, haven't they? And they go, let's just get back, and it's full out.
It's one of those films that actually doesn't outstay its welcome. For a Bond film, it moves and it moves. And what I like about it is, it's funny.
It is funny.
They're enjoying themselves. You can really tell this. The gags are good. It is carry-on Bond at times. Obviously, the title's slightly embarrassing. Roger Moore addressing Octopussy with her name. I can't do it justice, but it's absurd.
Apparently, when they were doing the press before it came out, the people would say, "So what's the next Bond film going to be called?" And Roger would be like, "It was called Octopussy." They didn't even want to say it.
But but the thing is, it's a good thriller. Stephen Burkoff is a demented villain. He's fantastic. Again, great theatre actor in this role. Bringing in people like Walken, really good actors. These are people who can compete with us. So I think it's an enjoyable thriller. The Fabergé egg. There are bits where actually it's genuinely tense as well, and I think there's something quite sad about an aging Roger Moore in the clown's costume.
Yes.
As he's looking like he's going to approach death. So actually, it's genuinely quite thrilling. It's genuinely quite silly. Desmond Llewellyn gets more of a role in this. This is the one where this is where he descends in the balloon.
That's right. Yes. Yeah.
The conclusion. So Llewellyn.
And it's all got a little bit of the Grand Guignol, hasn't it? This one.
It's just great fun. So I don't necessarily think it's great cinema or a great film, but it's a great Bond, and it's really enjoyable.
So Octopussy, we are saying, if you want to know which one should I go and watch that is the underrated one, I'm going to go with Octopussy. I think that's the one that everyone forgets.
It is good. I mean, some people, I think some of the humour they will find slightly dated, and it did at times come close to Brit sitcom and British comedy films like Carry On. Okay, The World Is Not Enough. I think this is the one with Jonathan Pryce as the media mogul.
Yeah.
He's a really good villain. It's a very enjoyable Brosnan, a really confident Bond film. And it is good cinema because it looked great in the cinema. I think it's probably 1997. Terry Hatcher, I think, was the Bond girl of choice in this one.
I don't know this film at all.
But, well, this is a kind of Rupert Murdoch figure who, in effect, is taking over the world with his global media enterprises. And, of course, in that sense, it was quite a cutting-edge story. This was not a tired Cold War story. It wasn't a preposterous story. This was something almost rooted in the reality we were living in the mid-90s. It's really good. So I recommend that. I mean, I think that the music for me after John Barry takes a tiny bit of a tumble with people like David Arnold and so on, but it's still good. It's still good action music, good action film, and they're keeping on top of the competition, which at that stage would have probably been Mission Impossible. The early.
Just starting to come in. Yeah.
Okay, now this is a controversial one because I know a lot of people. This is actually the most successful Bond film of all. When inflation's taken into consideration, this was the spy craze of the 60s, the most successful Bond film of all to this day, Thunderball. And
You've got it really low, haven't you?
I've got it really
for
low.
Thunderball.
And you know that Never Say Never Again is a remake of Thunderball. It's the same story. What's my problem with it? I can see that the underwater sequences are innovative. This is the only Bond film that I've fallen asleep through. And I've fallen asleep through this Bond film every time I've watched it. And every time I watch it, I'm thinking, right, I'm going to stay awake. And I fall asleep somewhere through the second hour of underwater cinematography, and it's innovative and it's quite lovely looking, but I get confused and I fall asleep. Outside of that, it's a fairly decent Bond film. Connery's great.
I've always felt that this is almost like the platonic Bond in a way. Thunderball is. And the reason why you feel that, because it doesn't have the quirks that all the other ones do. It's just it's almost like the straight down the line Sean Connery Bond.
Yeah.
And it's got the gadgets, it's got the girls, it's got this, it's got that. And I think in terms of coolness, Sean's at his peak of coolness in this. And I think so for Bond fans, that coolness and that sort of demonstration of the Sean Connery Bond in that way has elevated it. But as you say, you're saying something that I've always felt but I've never said, which is this one's a little bit boring and it doesn't have any of the sequences that we are going to have, either before or afterwards. There's nothing really in there that I can remember except for him being cool and the girls being cool and the villain's good, you know, but and the Lair's good, all that thing's good.
This is the one where there's a long health spa sequence as well. And that, of course, is replicated in Never Say Never Again. In Never Say Never Again, I sort of like better, actually. Partly because Connery's playing it with slightly more humour, and Connery at this stage knows he's past it. And I quite like the fact that he's playing a Bond that actually, you know what, I'm not as good as I was, I'm not as good looking, I'm not as capable. And he brings a pathos to that, which this hasn't got.
But if you like Sean Connery,
yeah, he's great. You know,
then this is one of the films, isn't it? So that I think that's what elevates it for me. All the Sean Connerys are just elevated up, and it's like it's. I mean, we've gone this far without hitting a Sean, haven't we? But we've also not hit a Timothy Dalton yet.
We haven't. Well, Timothy Dalton. Then this is the problem. Timothy Dalton for me, he's a mid Bond, which we'll come up to because I'm going to go for The Living Daylights next. I think he's great. I think he was a tremendous choice after Roger Moore. I think he should have come in earlier. For those that don't know, he was considered for On Her Majesty's Secret Service. In fact, they wanted him, but he thought he was too young and refused him. And he was also considered around the time of Moonraker when they thought Roger Moore was going, but Roger Moore didn't go. So he gets his chance in 1987, although they didn't want him. They wanted Pierce Brosnan, who was having a hit with Remington Steele. But Remington Steele got renewed for a second season and they wouldn't release him. So Brosnan would have been Bond on The Living Daylights. But
so I feel sorry for him now you've told me that. Poor old Timothy Dalton.
Yeah.
Because in a way, he's a perfect choice.
He's great.
And he actually gets it, but by the time he actually gets it, you feel like nobody really wants him there. When they wanted him, he didn't get it, and, when they don't want him, he gets it. So
exactly.
he's
and he was
on
going to do
borrowed
another.
time from start to beginning, isn't he, really?
He wanted to do a third. They were looking into a third, and then they stopped it because there were debates over copyrights and so on, and it just dragged on, and he got other work, and then Brosnan gets his go. I think the thing with the Dalton films, and Living Daylight's a good example, he's a wonderful Bond. The film is more than adequate. It's a slightly more back to basics, like For Your Eyes Only, but this time done with slightly more skill and precision and care, and you can tell that Dalton wants to make it good. He's not quite got the humour of Moore, but he's got the intensity of Connery, and he's got his own act, if you like, that he brings to Bond.
Again, I haven't seen these since they came out. I always remember these as, they didn't quite seem like Bond to me, because it was more like a boy's own story. It was almost like a commando sort of action figure. He was more like an action man than a Bond. And I think the sort of he didn't have the ability to say when he was the interactions with the women. Yeah, I don't think Timothy Dalton had that sort of killer sexual predator thing that the Bonds should have.
No,
and so, but he was very good in a sort of white jumper climbing down a cliff.
He did a lot of his action scenes. I think one of the famous plane scenes is he's hanging on. So a bit like Daniel Craig, he really put himself into the role. I think brilliant Bond, badly served by material.
Could be the case. I just wonder whether he just didn't quite pack the punch in terms of it may be a bit too politically correct, perhaps.
Well, they were certainly pulling back from the sexism, because I think this is it, that by that stage in the late 80s, Carry On and Bond couldn't have been less fashionable. The cinemas were thinning out. These were still hits, but the cinemas were thinning out. I remember when I saw Spy Who Loved Me, and I probably saw it a couple of times in the cinema when it was out, and I'd been 13. It was packed.
Yeah, I know.
And people were enthralled by it. When you see the opening sequence, which we'll discuss later,
we'll get to
the gasps in the audience, and at this stage there's me and a few other die-hard Bond fans in the audience, and it gets worse until you get to GoldenEye, where I've got to say that was sold out. Okay, so Living Daylights. I've got 2006. I'm a bit cruel on this one, Casino Royale. It's Daniel Craig's entrance. I think it's one of the worst beginnings. So Bond is famous for its repeated tricks and its stylisation. One of them is the long introductions, or the special introductions that bear only a tiny bit of relevance to the plot that you're about to see. And then, of course, the pointing gun to the camera. This is the worst introduction of any Bond film. It's the worst. It's almost like a casual. Ooh. Shooting the gun, you're not thrilled. So it has a black and white sequence where he kills two people, and allegedly they're James Bond's first two kills, where we're getting in to know this guy. And then you get the casual shooting, you get the really politically correct titles with a Chris Cornell song, which is all right. He's got a great voice, fantastic voice. And there is, in the chorus, there's a slightly Bond descending line that we all recognise. But the music doesn't quite make it for me. But the film gets better and better.
It does get better
and better. And it's a perfect film in one sense. I'm going to give you something that Ray Bradbury said. And I think this is such a true comment. He was talking about the film of, Fahrenheit degree, the burning temperature of paper. And I think it was Truffaut did a film of his most successful novel, and he said he has made my novel timeless and infamous. The truth of the matter is the novel's not quite as good as the film, but the film actually isn't that good. He said, you know what's good? The ending is good. And we remember this film because the ending's so good. And if you don't remember the ending of Fahrenheit 400, whatever it's called...
Fahrenheit 451, isn't it?
Thank you. It's where people are remembering the books word by word, going through the mind. They're almost repeating novels. Human beings have become living novels. It's such a devastatingly original ending to this new totalitarian state and so on that is existing. And he said that if you can make a brilliant ending, people often forgive what's come beforehand. And
it's a bit like Prog as well, isn't it?
I suppose, yeah. And this ends where basically the whole film is about Daniel Craig becoming James Bond, and at the end of the film, it's where he finally mutters the name's Bond. James Bond, the only time in the film. And throughout the film, from wearing the outfit for the first time with the bow tie, it becomes a more striking Bond film as it goes on. I think the card sequences are a bit overlong and a bit boring. I think we're never as much interested in poker as Bond directors and producers seem to think. No, we don't bet £1 million on poker games very often. No, we don't understand the rules. Stop it. But it's got some amazing action sequences. He's very physical. You know, one of the opening sequences in Africa is incredible. He's a very physical Bond, like George Lazenby, like Timothy Dalton. And he takes the bruises in this as well, and you feel the bruises. I think Ava Green is a superb Bond girl. You can believe the romance in it. For me.
Yeah. So I think what needs to be added here is that I think it was 2006, 2007, I remember that the push for this was huge.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like, Roger Moore going and Timothy Dalton comes in, then we get rid of Timothy Dalton, Remington Steele comes in. It's not like that. This was like it had stopped and now they're bringing it back to life. And Daniel Craig, remember there was that big promo thing when he came across the River Thames and everybody knew about it and there was such a build-up and everybody went to see it and it sort of delivered a new Bond for that time. I can remember, because I didn't go and see it straight away, but everyone was coming back saying, it's really, really good, and it's really... And I think they had reinvented Bond at this point, and I think they decided, let's make an actual film that you want to watch as a film. So this is definitely a better film. But for me, being a Bond fan, I don't know whether it quite... I was a little bit... and I wouldn't go and see any of the Daniel Craig ones,
I know exactly what you mean. It's a good film. Is it a good Bond film? Which is another question, isn't it? Octopussy, brilliant Bond film, not a great film. This, really good film. It fits in an era of Bourne. I mean, my feeling at the time when I saw it was, okay, Bond has learned from Bourne. That's what they did. They probably saw, even though Die Another Day had done very well, they saw that the Bourne films were doing Bond better and in an earthier way.
Well, you were getting these characters that were coming in at that point which had a motivation for doing what they're doing. It's like the John Wick thing, someone's killed his dog, so he's going to go out and kill everybody. And so there's this motivation built in. And with Bond, I don't think we should know this stuff about Bond, you see. I think Bond should be like a phantom.
Yeah,
you see what I mean, and so all these Daniel Craig ones. I don't know. It's like I feel like you go, Bond must have always been like this, but they never showed us this bit of him, and I don't want to know about it. I want him to come in and out. I want him to be like a phantom.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I mean, I know other people who feel this way. Stephen Bennett feels that as well. That he hated one of the films I'm going to say is one of my favourites because he said there was too much explication. We don't want to know about Bond being an orphan. We don't want to know about this. We want to maybe imagine it ourselves.
Yeah.
We don't want the spaces filled in, and I totally accept. But I think it's a really confident reboot, and it's a good film for the Bourne era. This is a Bond reboot.
But it's only like on Her Majesty's Secret Service. That was a big reboot. That was a big, everyone's trying to find the new Bond, and then it comes out, and suddenly Bond's got more emotions, and we follow this story through. I suppose that I think they got it better on a Majesty's Secret Service, but it had happened before.
Yeah, it had. Well, I mean, Live and Let Die as well. I mean, so I and Craig I'd loved beforehand. I thought he was a good choice. I mean, obviously I love the fact, coming from Cheshire, that we had a Cheshire Bond. That was great. And I think he has real range as an actor. He'd done serious stuff before. Our friends in the north, I think it's The Mother, is another film which is very
I was watching him last night in The Trench, which is sort of almost like a play. Brilliant actor.
He's real, and obviously since the Knives Out series, he's tremendous. One of the other things is there's inverse sexism in this. So, for those who know your Bond films, he's the one coming out of the water like Ursula Andress. He's the one whose nipples are on display. He also gets tortured in the most vile way, one of the worst tortures in a Bond film, where it's a rope being slashed against his testicles.
And if you were to say what's the key scene in Casino Royale, what's the jumping across the top of the alligator scene in this one.
Okay.
It's the bollock.
It probably is.
The bollock scene. That's what we'll call it.
I believe it said the bollock bash. Mads Mikkelsen and his bollock
Was
bash.
that the sweet?
Exactly. I do know exactly what you mean. Yeah. Those are the memorable things. And, and I think
there was a touch of. I think they wanted to skirt round it, but Craig is sexually dangerous. But there's a homoerotic thing. He's now the eye candy.
And
as
also,
opposed to Roger Moore, which is
exactly. And Ava Green, she's a beautiful Bond girl, but it's all in the eyes and in her intelligence. She's the opposite of Denise Richards when Denise Richards is a Bond girl.
Yeah.
And I don't mean, Denise Richards probably has the range. She was dealing with what she had to deal with script-wise, but,
Yes, I'm glad we touched on the Bond girls. We know who the greatest one is. We've almost said it already, haven't we? There's some excellent ones there.
Oh, interesting.
So,
we'll get to it. So I'm now going... Oh, do you know what we've missed?
What?
We missed the man with a golden gun.
Oh, you got it right down there.
Yeah, I got that.
No, just stick it. You can't have it right down there, man with the golden gun.
Yeah. Okay.
Right, we've just done Casino Royale.
Yeah.
I am going to put it there. It's my channel.
Go on.
Because it'll be too complex. I could edit it, but it'll be all strange.
Yeah.
Think about it. We just had Casino Royale with Daniel Craig.
You think Man with the Golden Gun is better?
Man with the Golden Gun is one of the best Bonds ever.
Okay. I like it. Knick Knack.
Yeah, Knick Knack. You got Christopher Lee.
Third nipple.
You've got the boats around the islands with those big things going on.
Yeah.
You've got, is that the one with the alligators in, or is it the one with the twisty car?
No.
It's Twisty Car. It's Twisty Car. You've got Twisty Car. You've got the American Sheriff bloke that is also, he comes
Pepper.
back again.
Yeah,
I like
Sheriff
him.
Pepper.
It's got so many classic moments.
Good morning. How's the water?
Why don't you come in and find out?
Sounds very tempting, Miss...
To me.
Really?
This is the one that's set in Asia.
That's right.
And on the Asian island. Christopher Lee is great. He is a good Bond villain. It's got a very memorable theme tune sung by Lulu, so great music. I quite like as well I think the big scene in this, it's the scene where there's almost some kind of fairground.
Yes. And it's like a hall of mirrors type of thing,
mirrors.
and that echoes through the film. I think this is a very good Bond.
I think it's good, but you know that this was a disaster. This nearly destroyed the franchise because Live and Let Die comes in, and they really recover. Live and Let Die is a huge box office success. After Diamonds Are Forever and On Her Majesty's Secret Service didn't really do that well by Bond standards. They're still number one globally, but they're not doing that well by Bond standards. Live and Let Die does well by Bond standards and any other standards. Man with the Golden Gun really sank. And that's why Spy Who Loved Me, they took 3 years and they really invested to make it right. But I think
this is a good solid
It's entertaining.
Bond,
Yeah, no, I agree.
And I think you've deliberately missed it out because you knew you were wrong. But I'll either put this back in its right place. So what should it be above? Because
I've got it above.
And so when you watch this, if it is where it was, it's where it was, and I decided that Tim was right. But if I think it should be higher,
I've got it beneath The World Is Not Enough and above Octopussy.
So above this we have The World Is Not Enough.
Yeah. Okay. So
we've done The World Is Not Enough. See, these are all. There's too many. There's too much. There is. I didn't realise how much there was. Patchy Bonds. It's now. Now we've got them all here.
Well, now we're doing it.
Yeah.
But no,
and I don't think Man with the Golden Gun is one.
I enjoy it, but again, Man with Golden Gun slightly suffers because the producers have said, "What's box office gold at the moment?" Bruce Lee. And so again, it's Bond chasing what's big in the cinema. Whereas in
Steptoe and Son did the same thing, didn't they? Yeah. Do you remember the Steptoe and Son
Rides Again or whatever?
No, it's one of the TV series. It goes all kung fu.
Really?
Yeah.
I know
they have a massive fight as well because kung fu's the big thing.
The Goodies did it. I remember that.
Yeah, they did it as well. Yeah.
But Bond shouldn't be doing that. Bond should be paving the way, which is what it did in the 60s, in my opinion.
I think so. And what you've got here is there's a run of Bond films that I love, and you're probably right. This is really the point where you go, hang on. Because Live and Let Die is great.
Yeah.
But you can say they're following it, but it still delivers. I think Diamonds and Forever delivers on a Majestic. They all deliver. That's the classic Bond. This is the first stumble, isn't it, in a way? I mean, me growing up, I loved it. I loved the Roger Moore ones. That was my era.
I still enjoy it. I still think it's good. So, when I'm criticising it, as a Bond film, I think it's a really good Bond film. As a film in the cinema in 1974, I think it's a bit lacking. And
could be right. Could
where
be
it
right.
is. So, okay, where are we next? License to Kill, the final Timothy Dalton. I think it's the best because it's slightly more emotional. Again, a lot more Desmond Llewellyn in this one. This is the one that begins, and it's actually genuinely quite emotional because I think a lot of these films are also chasing one great Bond film. All of the Daniel Craig films are in awe of On Her Majesty's Secret Service. This is to an extent as well. And it begins with Felix Leiter. Now, Felix Leiter, as everyone knows, has been played by any number of actors, including Jeffrey Wright, most recently. And it's the American Felix Leiter who's in Live and Let Die who reprises his role for this. And I think either he's getting married again or something, and Bond is best man, or he's there.
Oh, I remember this one now.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it's actually quite brutal. I think Benicio del Toro's is one of the villains. And it's really savage. Felix Leiter gets brutally murdered near the beginning of the film.
Yes, I remember, yes.
And I think it's one of the first Bond films, if not the first, where he swears. And you can tell Dalton is furious throughout this film. He's swearing, he's furious. Felix Leiter from Live and Let Die is dead in a really brutal manner. Fed to sharks at one point, I think. But yeah, so I think it's a good, intense film, and this is where he resigns. Again, he's done this a few times.
Yes.
Oh no,
I don't like when he resigns.
Did it in Casino Royale?
Yeah, I don't like it when he resigns. Bond shouldn't resign because what he's doing is he's admitted he's got a moral code which he's adhering to, and he shouldn't have a moral code. He should only have one moral code, and that's allegiance to the Queen, Her Majesty. That is it. Yeah. That's the only one he's got. Everything else, he can do whatever he wants. Kill anybody, have sex with everybody, torture, do whatever he wants. That's the whole point. I think that there's, and I'm being serious here, I think there's, the thing about the James Bonds is when they emerged in 1962, that year we're going into the 1960s, and you're going to have Easy Rider, and you're going to have all these things going on, the anti-hero spaghetti westerns, but Bond's there. And this is the anti-hero, and he can't be trusted, but he can. The only thing you can trust him with is his allegiance to the Queen. That's all there is. Yeah. But everything else, he's completely immoral. So he relates for me to a little bit like The Man with No Name, Clint Eastwood.
Yeah.
You see, so later on,
which I also loved those films at the time as well.
Yeah, and I think there's the correlations of it's the shift that's happening in culture. So James Bond's dangerous, and when you're a kid, you know it. As soon as he comes in, you know he's dangerous.
Well, this is, I think...
So he shouldn't be crying, swearing, he shouldn't be getting annoyed, he shouldn't be handing his notice in, he shouldn't be writing a letter, complaint.
You just drop it.
Yeah. None of this should happen in Bond's world, you shouldn't be like that.
Hey, Bond,
we're like that, not Bond.
Bond, you're dead mad. Well, I think anyway. So I'm going for 1971 here. Now we're kind of Diamonds Are Forever. Not a lot of people like this one. I do. I love it. I saw it in the cinema as a 7-year-old. I was hooked by the Las Vegas scenes and so on. The beginning is tremendous. The one with, I think it's Charles Gray, who also appears, I think, in an earlier James Bond film as well. But Charles Gray is the villain in this, and this is where we see any number of Charles Gray duplicates being made, and it's a very tense opening sequence. It's one of the great opening sequences, I think. The music for this is wonderful. I think it's John Barry at his best. The Shirley Bassey theme tune is superb. It's got another great space sequence that you get in You Only Live Twice, where you actually have the satellites and so on with the diamonds. The music for that is haunting, and I remember it as a 7-year-old vividly. This was the music of my dreams.
Sorry about that, excuse me.
So I really quite like it, and of course he's slightly paunchier, he's slightly older, but I think it's a good, solid Bond film, and there are some wonderful set pieces. Of course, you've got the space buggy across the Nevada desert, I think, isn't it?
No, I mean, I love this. Sean comes back. He shows you how to be a Bond. He's dangerous and does all the things he does. I think it's got a great story, and within it, there's things in it. This is like your esoteric Bond, isn't it? Because when you watch it, it seems to be trying to tell us something. I always felt that they've gone into the 70s, and there's a lot of things going on, and there's a lot of sequence, and that moon buggy sequence, when he eventually runs into what is the set for the faking of the moon landings in 1971. I mean, what's going on, you know? Well, and then you've got the two gay villains,
Wint and Quinn.
Yes, they're very strange as well.
And they're very good.
Yeah,
it's a culture that's coming apart at the seams.
You've hit the nail on the head with this one. Yeah.
And you could argue that in some ways it's Vietnam era America, it's Nixon era America, it's the questioning of the status quo.
Yeah.
It's all in there, you're right. And I think this also has a very memorable scene of him about to be incinerated in a coffin.
Yes,
and then waking up with rats in a pipeline. There are some really brilliant.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's surreal and strange. It's like it's an odyssey into a modernist hell in a way.
Yeah.
It's got an aspect to it, and Bond is existing in it because it's almost like you've had Woodstock, then you've had the whole gimme shelter. The 60s has all gone wrong, and Bond's in the new world. This is like he's in this modern world, and he survives. He operates, but he is on an odyssey of. It's surreal. I think that's what I mean. It's a sort of modern dystopia, and it's surreal and strange. And Bond's out of his comfort zone and having to deal with it. And so the thing with the two gay guys, that's very strange because you could tell Bond's like, oh, you know. Yeah. And in the end, the thing I always remembered as a kid is that the one guy gets his hands, pulls it between his legs, ties a bomb to him, and as he throws him off the boat to explode, he's enjoying it. And that and Bond's going, hang on, this is one of my worst deaths I've just enacted on you, and you're enjoying it. What's happened to the world? You know, it's all strange and weird.
I think you're right. It is him entering this new decade, this new world, while retaining his character and, of course, winning the day. And I think Charles Gray is a great creepy villain. I think his location, the top, almost doing this Howard Hughes reclusive.
Yeah, just checking on my cameras.
So I really rate it. This is a good Bond movie, and it fits in with the cinema of the early 70s. I mean, Connery himself did a couple of brilliant films around this time. One was The Offence, which is a wonderful film. Another one, The Anderson Tapes, is very, very good.
Not and then Zardos, though.
No, I like Zardos. I will defend Zardos for its use of Beethoven alone.
Beethoven in underpants.
Beethoven in underpants. It's great. I like it. But it's bizarre.
It is bizarre.
But I do like it. And of course, films that come slightly after us, things like The Conversation with Gene Hackman, which is a wonderful film. The Parallax View. It fits in with these kind of creepy, psychological, conspiratorial thrillers of the early 70s. This isn't chasing the pack. It's still making a great Bond film.
That's the point, yes. I think this could be the last one that is completely not chasing culture, it's informing culture, and it's a breakdown. There's actually a breakdown in this because it doesn't really make sense. There's so many sequences when you go, what the hell is going on here? It is an odyssey. It's very I love this one.
I love it, and we love Willard White as well, obviously. Yes. Okay, what have we got next? Okay, now some people like this as their favourite. I like it. I think it's a really, really good Bond.
Well, I think what we Diamonds Are Forever were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we're in the top 11 here.
Yeah.
And I think these are classic Bonds. None of these are below great.
Yeah.
All of these are great. So we're going to be criticising
these are great cinema and great Bonds.
And I think this top 11 would be. This top 10, I don't know. Is there anything I'd take out of here? Yes, there's one I'd take out of here.
Okay.
Definitely.
So this is From Russia with Love.
Yeah.
This is where they get things right. Okay, this is where suddenly the style comes in. It has the long intro, a great intro with Robert Shaw seemingly assassinating Bond. It's atmospheric, it's superbly done, it's convincing. So a great opening sequence. You have a lot of the tricks of the Bond, the gun to the camera, the music, the opening credits that become more and more elongated as the series goes on. But at this stage, they're again defining the 60s. It's a very stylish film. It's a very good film. It's got Olga Klebb and her dagger shoe, which is a superb device.
Yes, brilliant.
And she's a great villain. It's got the slightly dated gypsy caravan aspect to it, which unfortunately there's no Django Reinhardt in there. But yeah, it's a good Bond, and this is where you think they've got it together. They're coming together. Something's going to happen with this. To me, it's a bit like, maybe it's like Echoes by Pink Floyd. If you want to drag this into your musical channel, they're getting all the pieces together. But wait a minute, we're going to get it really right on the next film or the next album, which is Dark Side of the Moon.
I think this is the second Bond film, isn't it? So we've had Dr. No in 1962, and Dr. No has just blown everybody away. This is where it all begins. And although they get it right, so I've got a little tickle up my nose the whole time. Although they get it right, I'm trying not to sneeze. Well, I'll try this a third time now. Although they get it right, when you watch Dr. No, there's great big things missing from it, isn't there?
Yeah.
It's like some of the music and some of the things that Bond does and some of the things he wears. And there's things where they get it absolutely smack on right. But it's not quite right. And then we go to this one, and I still don't think they've got it quite right, because the thing with this one is all these Bond things come in, but I always felt this was like the Bond film for grown-ups.
Yeah.
The story doesn't actually pack a punch in the end. It's much more of a... There's no real climax. There's no lair or any of that, is there? There's just them sort of solving it and getting out. And the gypsy scene seems to be a throwback to sort of 1940s or 50s spy movies. So I still don't think they've got it right. It hasn't got that outlandishness. There's a few things. I remember the bit with the Anita Ekberg poster, and someone gets stuck in the mouth. It's very that's the sequence I remember of going, well, that's proper Bond there.
Well, for me, the intro is one of the strong Bonds, because at that point in the series as well, it must have been quite shocking that your main character gets convincingly killed as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I could never love it in the way that people do.
No.
I really like it and think it's a really good film, and I can see how it moves Bond on.
But as a kid, I can remember that one would come on, and I'd sit there and I'd think, well, Mum and Dad like this, but where's the car? Where's the ejector seat?
Where is the ejector seat?
There's no ejector seat.
There is no ejector seat.
Where's the great big lair?
I mean, all right, a dagger in your shoe—that's a nice idea. Clearly we all tried to make one.
Yeah, but you're getting beaten up by an old lady at that point, isn't he? But she is nasty, though. I'll give it that. I thought she was terrifying. That fight sequence is brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. You're right there.
Strong sequences. That's one of the most memorable elements of it. So above that, I've got Dr. No, which is the opening Bond film.
Yeah, it's an absolutely brilliant classic film. We are in classic film territory, but like I said, there's bits missing from it.
The music's not quite right at this stage.
Is John Barry on this one at all? Or was he wasn't like straight away, was he? And then they brought him in later.
Yeah.
So you've got the Monty Norman theme, haven't you?
He's in there. I think he arranges it.
Yeah.
But I don't think a lot of the score is him. I think he's given control after From Russia with Love. On this, he's partly doing it. But you've got the Three Blind Mice theme that's running through it. And there are quite a number of Caribbean tunes that run through it. It's a more generic soundtrack for a groundbreaking film. I mean, what this is, it's the birth of spy-fi, because there are science fiction elements. This must have been dazzling in 1962. The books have been a success. This comes in. Connery's a relative unknown, and he's magnetic from the first scene he's in.
It's that scene in the casino at the start, and it zooms in on him. Has got to be one of the most iconic scenes in cinema history are up there with the shower scene from Psycho or the Odessa Steps, from Battleship Potemkin. It really is. You see the 20th century cinema. That's incredible. I like the tarantula bit when I was a kid. I like the fact when he's snogging some woman and then he kills her because he uses her as a shield.
Yeah,
and that's what I mean about that. People must have gone, oh my God.
But it's so stylishly designed. Again, I hope I've got his name right, Ken Adam. The underground lair was unlike anything.
The lair's incredible. And when they go, and also Dr. No is a brilliant villain.
Yeah.
Ursula Andress is perhaps the greatest Bond girl.
She's fantastic. Again, the opening scene.
Yeah, the Venus
iconic.
coming out of the sea sequences.
And there are the sci-fi elements, the technology elements that would have been so unusual. For it is John le Carré meets dystopian sci-fi in some ways.
And also, of course, that final, the final sequence in the lair is really informing Carry On Spying, because that's spoofing that. Of course, they're doing The Third Man earlier on, and then they go to this. So, which I think was, the Carry On films, to bring them together, this is where they sort of start, don't they? You've got these British franchises emerging, and then you've got Carry On Sergeant, Carry On Nurse. And then in the early 60s, Bond come out and you get Carry On Spy and Barbara Windsor appears. And suddenly, they both grow out of this same thing, for me.
Yeah.
And sort of, they define two aspects of British culture. And they're both leading the way through the 60s, and then they can't keep up with the 70s.
No, I think you're entirely right there. And what's interesting with this, having rewatched Casino Royale recently, you see that they partly use this as a template, because even the way in which Daniel Craig dresses, for the first quarter, a third of the film, he's quite casual. He's in Barbados. He's wearing casual outfits, which Connery does in this. He's not quite... And okay, you've got the casino sequence, but he's not quite got the Bond in every scene look.
Well, I will give you my theory now of where the Bonds went wrong. And this comes from my brother, who's a massive James Bond fan. And he felt that the James Bond film should have stayed in the 1960s. That it was a 1960s setting, and it should have stayed in the 1960s. And as we go on, what we're describing on this list is basically, they go into the 70s, and Bond's going, well, I'm an anachronism now, and you get to see it. And then after that, it never quite makes sense. And and when you go to the Daniel Craig reboot, it's not set in the 60s, but it almost has the feel that they've gone back to the 60s. And you also see Mission Impossible sort of goes back to the 1960s, even though it's not the 1960s, If you think of The Spy Who Shagged Me, right? If you're using that as a measurement, he starts in the 60s, and then they bring him up to date, and he's an anachronism. Or Bond, it's because Bond would be the same. As soon as you drop James Bond in the modern world, he's like, what the hell's going on? I can't work with this.
Yeah.
You see what I mean? And I think that's what you've got, and this is why this is so great. Even though all the elements aren't there with Dr. No, it's 1962 for me is the year where everything flips over. You've got Lady Chatterley's Lover.
The Beatles.
You've got the Beatles, you've got Dylan's first album, and then Dylan's second album. You can almost track those through the Bonds, and when you get to the third album of Dylan and he starts going electric, or the fourth, or whatever it is, we're probably round about Goldfinger. And all of that is happening. You can see that move up to 1965. There's this huge shift in culture, and the Bonds are just smack in the middle.
Yeah.
And everything's there, right down to electric guitars.
There is a
and
Philip Larkin poem about this that mentions, I think the Beatles mentions Chatterley's Lover. You're right, there's a cultural shift, and this is a major part of it.
Yeah.
And it's kind of interesting, isn't it, that it's in Britain. It's a global cultural shift, and it's partly defined by quite eccentric British output with the Beatles and Bond.
And so it's like, we've gone through the Second World War, we've gone through rationing, we've had to give the whole empire away, they were right on our knees, and then we start climbing out, and you get to the 1960s, and that generation goes, no, we're not having it, we want something else, and they look for something else, and they see it in all these characters, and James Bond is iconic in that cultural history, absolutely iconic. Until this day, he still represents something. but we can't quite grab hold of it anymore because it's unmitigated danger. He's chatted up Ursula Andress on that beach. Then some bloke comes and he just picks that thing, bang, and shoots a guy. He's got a licence to kill. Think about that. This guy has been let off by the Queen. He can do what he wants. I mean, I used to think, what's the licence to... That means he can go down the chip shop and just shoot the bloke. The police turn up.
Would you like a licence to kill?
No man should have a licence to kill.
So I'm just wondering, musicians you've worked with, halfway through the song.
You know, it's like if you think of even a Hitchcock film with Cary Grant, you know, and all that thing, all the stuff and all the mess. But those guys are moral. And they're right, and they've been wrong, and they're trying to...
Here's the thing, if there's a precedent, you're right, there's a slight Third Man, because The Third Man is an astonishing film. And you can see they've got that in mind. And they've also got... Because Hitchcock was at the top of his game in the late 50s, early 60s, arguably his greatest run of films. And I think, you know, North by Northwest in particular with Cary Grant and Vertigo.
It's a prototype, that's why I bring it in. It's a prototype for Bond.
And they get it right, because I think with those films, I mean, they're masterpieces. I'd also add The Birds to that as well. And Marnie's exceptional. And it's partly because Bernard Herrmann's work and Hitchcock's direction are in lockstep. They are so perfectly aligned.
But what Hitchcock does is he takes the hero, and we know the hero is a goodie, but no one else knows. He's the baddie for everybody else.
He's always the wrong man.
And so often the way through that is by the dodgy seduction of a woman. Usually something that we would see as being very bad, like he gets chained to someone and then he has to force them to go to stay in a room with them and he's touching their leg and all that type of thing. That is what Hitchcock does with it. With Bond, it's now he can just do these things. He's going to do those things, you know.
They made the right choice, because I think we can say the people who could have been Bond, Fleming, I think, visualised Cary Grant. And Cary Grant was, I think, offered this. You know, I think Cary Grant was offered it, David Niven was offered it. Both of them said they didn't want to do a series of films and they felt they were a little too old for it. Rex Harrison was offered it, unbelievably. And in the end, in going for someone like Connery, he's just the right face, because on one level, this film, it fits in my Academy of the Underrated. And if you don't know what my Academy of the Underrated is this, that you take for granted things that are successful, and people now go, oh, those films, they're just shit commercial piece of work. But actually, or bands, and I always maintain that, let's say, a band like Thin Lizzy or a band like Yes, on their very first albums, if they never did anything other than that, they'd be seen as classics of their era, either experimental blues singer-songwriter in Thin Lizzy's case, or a really interesting West Coast psychedelic album in the case of Yes. They're so distinctive, quirky and interesting that had the bands just gone on to be Milkmen, we'd still be talking about those albums, or at least fans would be talking about them. And I think had the Bond franchise failed on its first film, this would still be being shown now as, this is a brilliant lost 60s film. It's a great film.
Yeah, without a doubt. I think what the reason why we've spent so long on this one is because to understand Bond, you have to understand this film.
Yeah, and they went for the right choice as well.
I think I've got to it. That's always a thing. You want to get to it. So what we got above Dr. No?
I'm going for Spy Who Loved Me.
Well, it's one of the greatest Bond films ever made. It's definitely the greatest Roger Moore.
It's great. I mean, this is a confident Bond film. Of course, people always remember that introduction, skiing, the Union Jack flag, and the cheers that elicited. I don't know what it was like in...
That's exactly the same thing. No, he skied off the cliff. You went, oh my God, he skied off a cliff. But if you remember before that, he was in bed with a woman, wasn't he? He's in bed with a woman. The next thing, he's skiing down the mountain. The next thing... And also, the thing that's brilliant, as he's being skied down the mountain and being shot at... The disco of all disco tunes comes in. You know, it's James Bond, but it's disco. My God, we're in this world. And he comes down, goes off the cliff. Oh my, he's going to die. Oh, it's okay, he's got a parachute. And he's got the Union Jack on. It's like... And that's what I'm saying. James Bond, the only moral thing he's got is his patriotism. Yeah. And when he shows that, it's every now and then you get one of those, you know. And I love it. I think it's brilliant.
Well, it's absurd. And of course, you know, this was at a time when, let's say, cinema attendances were declining, when British culture was seemingly in decline, when certainly Britain's power globally was declining. And these films are almost some kind of comical
At this point, yes, yeah. It's and they're going around the world. Oops! Oh my God! Sorry about that. They're going around the world. They're doing all these things around this empire that they know. And he's turning up in sort of Egypt with his white suit, and the old boys' clubs there. Yeah. I feel that The Spy Who Loved Me, in terms of classic scenes, may have the highest amount of classic scenes, except for Goldfinger. This just keeps delivering. If I put it on now, I go, oh, brilliant, it's the so-and-so scene. Oh, it's the brilliant, it's the so-and-so scene. He's going to go to the pyramids. He's going to have the Lotus Esprit, which is even better than the Aston Martin because it goes underwater. He's going to drive out the beach and he's going to wind down the window. Lotus Esprit is
submarine.
Yeah. And that bit where, he drives up the beach, winds down the window, and then he puts the fish and drops out. There's no way there'd be a fish in the car. How did he catch that fish? And every little bit of it is absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
Kurt Jürgens, brilliant. That horrible black hawky thing in the sea. Yeah. Everything's amazing about Spy Who Loved Me.
It's high adventure. It's high Bond adventure. It's a lot of fun, and it's a good thriller. And it's one of those that, again, it was just right. It was on the edge of disco, and they just get the soundtrack right as well. This isn't quite chasing. It's doing it. It's a confident Bond film using the outfits of the era, bringing in the comedy, and this is obviously the debut of Jaws, and the debut of Jaws is really impressive. He's an imposing actor, Richard Keel, and doesn't this end on the train sequence? I mean, we have a lot of train sequences in Bond for the obvious metaphor of the train sequence going through the tunnel. But I mean, it's just a hugely entertaining Bond film, a hugely entertaining late 70s cinema achievement. And it's nothing more than entertainment. But it's great at being entertaining. And I think, again, you feel that the people making this, I think Anthony Burgess might have been partly behind the screenplay for this as well. They're having fun. It's creative fun.
Yeah, I think this is the high point of the 70s Bonds for me. But we haven't had Live and Let Die yet.
Well, this is it, and it could be these could be age things as well. So I've got GoldenEye above that because GoldenEye I went to see in London when it came out, and suddenly there was excitement after really, I would honestly say, post Moonraker, Bond's in the abyss. 15 years, I think, of just about doing box office business and still being a name. I think that Brosnan totally reinvented it. Sean Bean is very good. Sean Bean again was considered for Bond, and of course I do like the idea of name's Bond, James Bond. I'd have quite liked it. 007 could have been good, but he's obviously a Trevelyan, isn't he? He's the villain in this, and he's great. I mean, Sean Bean has got gravitas. I think he could have been a good Bond, but he's a good subtle Bond villain in this. And Brosnan is a really confident Bond. And what he does, he brings back your Connery danger, but he retains, because he also brings back your more humour. He can pull that off, which he did in Remington Steele. Yeah. So I think he's a good one, and it's a really great film. What an opening sequence. Again, talking about pre-credits. This is the one with the dam and so on. It's breathtaking.
Oh, that's incredible, yeah.
Yeah.
And of course you've also got GoldenEye.
Yeah,
Tina
which
Turner.
is all right. It's really good.
Really good.
Produced, I think, by Rupert Hine. So I like, it's fantastic. So I'm all for it. I think Scott Walker, it might be in the film after that, recorded something for one of the Bond films, and it was used at the dying ends of a credit sequence, which is a real shame he never got to sing a Bond theme. But I can't really say very much about it other than it absolutely re-establishes the franchise. And whereas Dalton's great, but he's badly served by the films, and the last few Moores, even when they're good like Octopussy, they're just not competing with Spielberg. They're not in the same league. Suddenly Bond has gone from the top. He's gone from Manchester United, the top of the Premier League, and he's suddenly gone to Rochdale.
Or Accrington Stanley.
And you knew it, and I was rooting for them, because I like Accrington Stanley as well, but I was rooting for the Bonds. When Brosnan comes in, it's like, good God, they've got that Etihad money that Manchester City got, and they're right back at the top of the Premier League.
So for someone who's a massive Roger Moore and Sean Connery fan, right, but doesn't know these films so well, this would be the one for me to go and watch tonight.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever seen this properly. I've only seen bits, but I remember the damn scene in it. I can remember the theme. I can't remember much of that about. And you've got this really high, so I'm going to go and watch this when I get home, I think.
Okay.
Yes, which is what this is all about.
Rewatching. Okay, 1969's on Her Majesty's Secret Service. This could have been higher.
Yeah, it's too low.
Again, fabulous opening sequence. They're quite understated by Bond, but of course it wins because Lazenby's a very physical Bond. He's quite charming. He's the worst Bond for me in the sense that he's not got much range as an actor, but he's got a great physical presence. And it ends, if you remember, with the line, "This never happened to the other fella."
Are they on that beach with that?
What a fantastic way to close that opening sequence. It's knowing, it's breaking the fourth wall. It's very clever. And I think this has a wonderful beginning, and it has arguably the best Bond ending.
Of all. Well, I think there's an argument that this is the greatest Bond.
Yeah.
And a lot of Bond fans feel that this is the greatest Bond. And I think what we've got is a lovely mixture between the sort of dangerous classic Bonds of the Sean Connerys and then the one with the proper story that is going to move you. And I think they did this over and over again, but with this one, it's the first time they've done it with Bond. And Bond almost... He's acting like Bond all the way through. He's still seducing all the women. He's still doing all this, but he sort of meets his match, doesn't he?
In Diana Rigg.
Yeah. And so at the end, when she's shot, and that all that, I can remember really being upset by this. And so I feel, and also possibly the best soundtrack.
The soundtrack for this is
the best
marvellous,
soundtrack.
and it's also where he's introducing synthesizers in his colour palette. This is quite advanced, genuinely progressive music. It's a superb score, and it's got an instrumental theme tune rather than the classic song. But it does feature the wonderful Louis Armstrong, and we have all the time in the
one
world.
of the greatest songs ever written. Louis Armstrong comes in from the early 20th century New Orleans straight into a James Bond film. Can you do it, Lewis? Of course I can. I'll just do one of the greatest vocal performances ever. And it's poignant. I think this should be higher.
Yeah.
And so the big problem is Lazenby, who... Because Lazenby is in a group of all of himself. You said he's the worst Bond.
Well, he's a bit like a ham in a tuxedo. But...
Do you think if they'd allowed him to have his own voice...
No, I'm imagining if Dalton had been given this film, it would be the greatest
Could
Bond
have been.
film.
I mean, if Sean Connery had it.
If Sean Connery had it.
If Sean Connery
But then he
had
couldn't have delivered that joke, "This never happened to the other fella," which was a vital joke, in it. I think, again, it's overlong. I think the romance between him and Tracy is a bit dubious. I think Tracy's father... It's a little bit your Euro ham for me. So there are bits
that's a bit boring.
The toboggan sequence is all right, but I think Telly Savalas
brilliant
is a good villain.
Yeah.
I think the scene is very good. You've got George Baker, who was another person who considered for Bond, believe it or not. And one of the things I've got to say about early Bonds, and it's particularly in Goldfinger, but actually you may or may not know this, when Lazenby's talking in the ski top, it's actually George Baker.
Yeah,
it's dubbing.
Yeah, I always felt that they dubbed his voice, and so there's a stiltedness about George Lazenby, which made us think, oh, he's terrible. But I don't
the
think
dubbing's still very good. What's amazing for me is, you look at now Netflix, and they've got a South Korean or Russian film, and they'll have dubbing. It's terrible. Today, at the moment, dubbing is terrible. You watch Goldfinger, you watch On Her Majesty's Secret Service, and often they dubbed. I didn't realise this on You Only Live Twice. A lot of the Japanese actors were dubbed. I never knew until I read it. I didn't realise that Goldfinger was dubbed. It's perfect. How can you get dubbing right in 1964 and Netflix still can't get it right in 2025? So yeah, George Baker is the voice of Lazenby when he's attempting to be this thoroughbred Sir Hilary.
He does that voice. Yeah,
I like to call him Sir Hilary Swank, though I know that's not his name. It's great. And again, that haunting scene with the music when they're lulled into the dream and they're being manipulated subconsciously, which is quite a terrifying idea when you're young.
And all those different girls,
Yes.
all the different ladies in that place, and Bond turns up and he's having to put on the English accent.
Yeah.
You know, but he's like what's the phrase? He's like a fox in a chicken coop, isn't he? And he can't, and then he's having to wear a kilt.
Yeah.
So he's got no pants on.
I mean,
and then girls are right inside his leg. I mean, this is all like, it's incredible
This is
stuff.
Bond, an all-you-can-eat girl buffet.
Basically, one of them's Joanna Lumley.
One of them is Joanna Lumley. And one of them, I think, went on to be a presenter of Magpie, Jenny Hanley.
Jenny Hanley's in it, yes.
I think it's a really good film. The action sequences are good. You know, where Lazenby delivers, he's a great physical actor. He does the fights well. He does the action scenes well.
And he looks the part.
And he
so,
looks the
and
part.
you know, you don't. They really got the look right from Sean.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah, I think it's always been one of my favourites. It's probably the one I've watched the most because I can come back.
I like
to
it a lot, but I think, you know, so there are it's overlong. There are flaws, and as you say, it might be the best for music.
Yeah.
So
Let's move on. So,
but the ending, we didn't quite say. You know, it is the one where basically he falls in love with his equal, which is Diana Ross, Diana Rigg, again from the Avengers, and it's very, very poignant. It's the one Bond film where you feel the thrills, and certainly as a kid, I remember feeling near tears at the end.
I
and
did.
I know a lot of people. It's like, because you buy into his romance. Finally, good God, he's met somebody who matches his intelligence, who matches.
but don't you feel it's like Bond cannot have a wife? He cannot have a girlfriend like that. He can't fall in love. And all the way through these films, he never gets shot. He you know, if he's injured, it's just a scratch on his face. Nothing ever happens to him. And even here, nothing happens to him. But as soon as he attempts to escape from being the Bond, the mysterious Bond, as soon as he does it, he's snapped down. And you know it's 10 minutes of him being upset.
Yeah.
You know, but then he gets up and he's back to being Bond.
Happens in Casino Royale as well. But Lazenby, for all my criticism of him, he delivers that final scene perfectly.
Yeah, brilliant acting.
With She's Only Sleeping.
Yeah.
And it is, as you say, it's the one Bond film that actually takes you through a very wide range of emotions. View to a Kill takes you from A to B emotionally. It takes you from A to B well, but this definitely goes from A to M at least.
Yes.
All right, now we've got No Time to Die, which actually follows on. It lives in the shadow of On Her Majesty's Secret Service.
without a doubt.
Trying to pull off that trick of exciting, seat-of-the-edge Bond film and poignant romance. He's even got a daughter in this, hasn't he?
I hate this film.
Do you?
Yeah.
He even gets killed in this.
He gets killed and there's girl Bonds being better than him and he all starts to get all midlife crisis-y and he all gets like he's...
Yeah.
And then he has self-loathing and self-doubt, you know, and towards the end...
Felix Leiter gets killed again.
Yeah. I just hated it when I saw it. I absolutely... It's a good film and it's made well and it's got all... They've really tied it up well. I just don't want it to happen like that. And the thing is that in the end, when you sat there, even the way he dies is not the way Bond should die. And does he phone up his daughter or something and has a chat to her while these rockets are coming in and blowing to smithereens?
Look, you've got Remy Malek's a great villain, he's a classic villain. You've got the underground lair back.
Yeah.
Beautifully, stylishly.
Yes.
The score is brilliant. This one's Hans Zimmer. And he also uses melodies from On Her Majesty's Secret Service in this film. As a cinematic...
You really like this because you've got this at number...
Yeah.
What is it? Is this at number 5 now?
5, I think, yeah.
Yeah.
It is a great cinematic spectacle. I'm not sure about the ending myself, because I agree with you. Can you kill James Bond? There's a certain hubris that Daniel Craig feels he did Bond so well, he can kill it. Of course, it can allow Bond to be reinvented in any number of ways in the future, but
None of them that I want.
possibly not.
None of them I want, unless they bring him back by finding all the bits and do a $6 million man on him. That's the only thing I'm going to
You
accept.
want an AI Bond set in the 60s?
Yeah.
with, you know, the physicality and torso of George Lazenby.
Well, if they want
the head of Sean Connery and the wit of Roger Moore.
Why don't they have a lady Bond? Because that's what they want, don't they? So they can have their lady Bond, but she has to go back in time to the proper Bond in the 1960s, and they can't get on because she's all modern. I mean, this is just a Spy Who Shagged Me again.
Or are you doing Life on Mars?
Yeah, I love that.
Great series. I don't know. I thought it was a great cinematic spectacle. I thought it was very well acted. I do think, you know, your Blofeld, he's fantastic.
Well, the thing is, if they don't do anything, if that's the last Bond, I don't mind it so much. If they really did kill him off, and that's the way it was, and he went all, you know, woke, didn't he? Basically, towards the end. I mean, he went woke, and he died.
Didn't go broke.
And he died, and that's that. So Bond never go woke again. Everyone else should be woke because we can all be nice people. But in terms of Bond is not nice. And if he's going to do Her Majesty's duty, I mean, now he'd be working for Charles.
He would.
And I don't think he'd be doing that. I don't think Charles is in the same league, unless they send him off to get Prince Andrew.
That would be the plot.
Exploding Teddy.
Yeah, that's the next plot line. I think that I accept it took on board contemporary moral debates, and I thought it did it well. I think that for me, it was a classic James Bond film that managed not to be compromised despite taking on board the way in which values in the 21st century have changed.
Well, I got it before when I watched it after all the sort of, you know, the pushback on it, and then the girl Bond sort of at some point realises that Bond is Bond. You know, it's not he's not just a fool that can't be Bond anymore. I think what we've got is a crisis of storytelling. That's what we've got here. So they do a very good job in the current climate of people not being able to tell stories without having to tick a box of, you know, a tick box of worthy points made. And I just don't think that this is why we're here talking about the Carry On films and talking about James Bond, because we know that there is still something insidious and naughty about these films. You know, there's something that in today's climate, you know, it's a guilty pleasure because of what it represents.
One of the things that was interesting is when I was doing a tiny bit of research for this, and I looked at the Bond films they had on Sky Movies. And in Sky Movies, they actually have ratings. And the thing that amused me, and I'm sure it'll amuse you, and it was For a View to a Kill, and actually I've got it on Blu-ray and I watched my Blu-ray version. But what was interesting was it gave it a role model rating of 1 out of 5. And then it gave
What's a role model
rating? And it gave it a morality rating of 1 out of 5. And I was very amused by that. It's like, you amuse me, Mr. Bond.
I've got to get into this. Why are they rating films like that?
They rate films on morality, role model, and I've got a 14-year-old boy and he finds it hilarious. And partly it's because this is forbidden. And if things are forbidden, you try and find your way into that forbidden world. So things like Carry On and Bond, he will often find hilarious because it's so unlike anything he's seen and so unlike anything he's told to like. But also, he instinctively knows, like you and I instinctively know, when Sid James is being a sexist in Carry On Camping, he's the idiot.
Yeah, of course
it's like, you know, Warren Mitchell in Till Death Us Do Part. He's a racist, bigot, buffoon. He doesn't know it. But we know it. As an audience, we know he's a racist, bigot, buffoon. We know that Sid is desperate. And in Bond, we know it's improper to the nth degree.
Yeah.
And that's partly, it's almost like a cartoon character. It's like when the Roger Moore era ends with him in the shower with somebody, his granddaughter, it's like, how absurd can this get? You know, in the next film, is he going to be with a sperm in the shower? There's something ridiculous. And intrinsically, I think people don't actually feel morally scandalised and I'm going to follow this person into purgatory. They know it's ridiculous. They know it's a fantasy.
But the thing with Bond is, you know, if you're a woman and you go with Bond, it's going to be good sex for the lady, but also he may kill you.
Yeah.
And I don't think, and the women who are watching this, which are non-existent, I wonder whether, for the sex to be good, you've got to think that the man might kill you.
Possible. And even,
you see, and that's so. I'm being serious here. There's a danger there, which is a thrill to people who are thrill seekers, and the rest of us who aren't thrill seekers, we can live a thrill by watching James Bond, and women can watch James, because they'll be back with their husbands, and their husbands are not James Bonds, but for that 2 hours they get to see a proper man. Do you see what I'm saying? And a proper man is dangerous.
And he's even great in bed when he's had bashed testicles as well. We know this from Casino Royale. But, yeah.
Yeah. Shall we move on?
Shall we move on from that? I like it more than you, but there we go.
Yes.
Okay, number 4, You Only Live Twice. Second best soundtrack.
Yeah, the soundtrack's good.
Capsule in Space is wonderful. The actual soundtrack by Nancy Sinatra might be my favourite of all of them.
Donald Pleasance is without doubt the greatest Bond villain ever. And when when you copy a Bond villain, you're copying Donald Pleasance. And that scar with the wonky eyelid, that's incredible. The lair is one of the best lairs ever. It's after Thunderball, a return to bonkers Bond. It's got a much more outlandish thing. I just find that Sean Connery pretending, is he Japanese or Chinese? I can't remember which one
Japanese.
Him pretending to be Japanese. I never liked that.
No.
I mean, there's the politically incorrect part, but even if you take that out of it, he doesn't look like that.
No.
It's like he doesn't look like a stereotype. He looks like something really strange.
I mean, it's culturally insensitive, there's no doubt.
But he looks like a leprechaun.
Yeah, and there's cultural appropriation. I think Little Nelly gets into this one, doesn't he? And I do remember when I've done interviews with Japanese magazines, I always say that all I know about Japanese culture is from You Only Live Twice. But what's nice is they find it hilarious because they know how inappropriate and how badly done it is. The Japanese actors were overdubbed quite brilliantly. The Japanese actress, who's quite beautiful, she was the Japanese Audrey Hepburn. She was a star in Japan. I think what I like about it is Pleasance, the lair, the music. Once more, again, when you have Capsule in Space and the two capsules colliding, there's something so haunting. That's almost poetry in motion picture. Sometimes it is just abstract
because we must
art.
say this, in terms of pure cinema, Bonds can often be at Citizen Kane level, can't they?
Sometimes
the music coming together, the cinematography,
or Hitchcock level.
It's so beautiful at certain points and so full of a certain flavour. You know, there's a certain way that people move within the frame. There's a way that people, the way the figures operate. You know, the way objects operate, the way technology, you know, is framed. I think cinematography. But anyway, my point is, from a cinema point of view, it's high cinema. The Carry On films aren't.
No,
they're not. But this is, and I think one of the issues I had with this one is it's there at some points, but it's not quite as iconic because we're in the real top echelons here. This is as iconic as Thunderball even, or especially Goldfinger, which is massively iconic. And I think part of it, as a kid, there was a lot of blue screen. There's a lot of blue screen in this one. There's a lot of the special effects have been, you know, relied on a little bit more rather than actually doing it. And I always felt there's a lot of him. Is this the one with the it's with that little gyrocopter thing, isn't it? Little Nelly. And there's a lot of him sat in something that doesn't look like it's up in the air. No,
I agree. You know, but I think it kind of wins courtesy of the music, courtesy of the space scenes. Pleasance is arguably the definitive Bond villain. And I think the exotic setting, this was another thing. You're talking about Britain, especially in the 60s, where very few people went abroad. So this to them was almost an introduction to the world. This is what Tokyo looks like. And as well, I think it's got one of the best beginnings. This is another where it looks like Bond is dead. And it's a very interesting sequence where he's in a bed and the bed goes into the wall, which I'd never seen anything that exotic. Did people have beds?
That's all I ever wanted when I was a kid, was have a bed that went into the wall.
I wanted a bed that went into the wall.
Yeah.
And he's machine gunned. And I'm not sure, in my mind now, I'm seeing the blood dripping from the holes. And then he's buried. You know, we get Commander Bond being buried. So it's one of the first James Bond is dead that seems very convincing when you're 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You really believe he's dead. And then he reappears in a submarine outside Hong Kong, is it, I think? Hong Kong Harbour. So I think there are some great scenes. And Connery, it's a misstep. The whole Japanese section is perhaps a misstep. But he is still an icon of 60s cool in that film.
Without a doubt, yes. We are talking of classic Bonds here.
So I've got Skyfall, which I'm sure you're going to disagree with on this. I think Skyfall is to the Daniel Craig era what The Spy Who Loved Me is to the Roger Moore era. And that is, okay, we're not going to make a Bourne as a Bond. We're not going to chase them. Let's make the best James Bond film we can in the current day and age. And I think they got the acting choices right. You know, Ray Fiennes, I think Judi Dench was a very good M, but I think Ray Fiennes is equally good. And this is one where you really do feel as if MI5 is about to crumble. Is it Banderas as the villain in this one?
I watched this quite recently, and what you've got here is a really great film, and real threat to the basic fabric of Bond and what they do.
Yeah. And
him having to come in and save the day, despite, you know, he does become like the Hitchcock character, doesn't he? He's out on his own type of thing. Yeah.
Goes to his ancestral home in Scotland.
That's it, yes. Yeah. I think when I watched them all one after the other, and there was a couple I thought, this is incredible, and then they let me down, and I think this and Quantum of Solace were the two. I really like Quantum of Solace stylistically, and I like this one, and I was being pulled along by the plot. But whether that then carried on, I could have lived with that, I suppose, if that was where it went. I don't know.
It was re-establishing Bond with total confidence in the contemporary market, and I think it is a great Bond film and a great piece of cinema. It's exciting, it's emotional, and you feel the tension. As I've said, I think the acting choices are perfect for this, and the music, they're getting better. You know, Craig is becoming more and more Bond as he goes on, I think, as well. Yes,
I think that's definitely right. I noticed that when I went through them, that he was in Casino Royale he's decided to push against it. This is the new Bond, and then as it goes on, he relaxes into Bond as someone have to access Bond as an idea, because the Bond as a person is almost like disappearing in this. They all, if I can remember it, they all blend into one. But yes, you know.
Well, this is the one as well. It's got a very good contemporary story in a way, because in a sense it's a post-WikiLeaks, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, this is MI5 being destroyed by technology, and there's something very believable. Yeah, obviously Mission Impossible is doing it now with AI. And so I think it's a precursor to the latter two Mission Impossible films. So in a way, this Bond film is a Bond film that's influencing films that come after it, which you can't say about a lot of the 70s or 80s Bonds. They are failing to keep up with what's happening.
I accept your choice. I accept it. You're here as the expert. I will go back and revisit that one. This has been very useful for me.
Again, it's a long film, but I really think it's worth immersing yourself in. And the atmosphere, the music, the performance, it just gels. This is where, again, it's like, for me, Goldfinger's the third Connery. They hit it. And this is the third Craig, and it's like, we get it right, in my view.
Spy Love Me is the third Moore.
Yeah, you're right. That is interesting.
But I noticed that at number, because we're now on the last two, aren't we?
Yeah.
So at number 2, this is a surprising choice with what's gone before. You've got Live and Let Die at number 2.
All right, Live and Let Die. I've got to come clean on this one. My parents, who in classic 70s style, were constantly having affairs and breaking up and so on. My mum took me to London for the weekend. I was 10. And I saw the Live and Let Die posters, and she knew I was mad on Bond, and I would not let her rest. And the film had only just opened. And we went to Leicester Square, and I'm hoping people can tell me whether this was normal, but we were at Leicester Square Odeon, where it premiered, and she had to buy cinemas at an inflated price. There was somebody going, right, we've got tickets here at this price, tickets here at that price. I've never been in that situation before. And then, of course, as an insistent 10-year-old, I made her buy the programme. She didn't even like the films, but she took me there. You know, it's this weekend away to escape my father. And I then force her to watch Live and Let Die. And I was open-mouthed with delight because I loved The Saint, so I knew more. I thought he was a great choice. And the theme tune, Live and Let Die, Paul McCartney and Wings, because the Beatles were one of the few pop bands I liked as a kid, so to hear McCartney do the tune, and it's such an epic, sprawling masterwork. This is a miniature prog masterpiece.
I mean, this is totally right. I love the Beatles, but Live and Let Die is better than any Beatles song.
Live and Let Die,
Live and Let
Beatles
Die
could have become.
Yes, it's like it's insane. There's so much in there, and again, it's like Paul McCartney's songwriting style has been made better because it's got the danger of Bond in there, and so it doesn't have that trite, you know.
Yeah,
Silverhammer type.
The lyrics are nonsense. Just you take this away. The lyrics are not Philip.
But it's genius songwriting.
It's wonderful songwriting.
I mean, the orchestral bit.
Yeah.
That's not James Bond. That's not James Bond. But we go, oh, that's James Bond.
Yeah.
I don't know. They put
he
it off.
redefines the James Bond, and I think Martin's range, because Martin's at the score for this. John Barry couldn't do it for some reason, and George Martin does an excellent job, and he drags the Bond themes into the era of blaxploitation and funk. Now this, you could argue, it's slightly chasing the pack, except 73 really was the year for blaxploitation, so they're in the middle of it.
They're right in the middle of it,
They're right in the heart
and it also goes beyond. It's got voodoo in there, it's got all sorts of things in there. And they mess with it, and it's so strange. I mean, no blaxploitation has a voodoo sort of priest that seems to be indestructible and
Baron
immortal.
Samedi is terrifying.
Yeah.
As a kid, he's particularly terrifying. Jane Seymour is bewitching.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant. You are right, it is an amazing film.
She's this ingenue, and there's something about her. And I remember seeing her in an episode of The Double Deckers beforehand and being enchanted, and she's enchanting in this because she's otherworldly. She's just right.
And this has also got the greatest line of any James Bond film. Names is for tombstones.
Baby. Does he
which is Bond coming over. My name's Bond, James Bond.
Well, this is a Bond film that you've got to, in a sense, throw logic out of the window. It's got a great opening sequence with the New Orleans Dixieland burial scene where one of the agents is killed. So great opening sequence.
You are right here. Now I'm thinking about it. And it's got that Diamonds Are Forever. We're in the 70s and everything doesn't make sense anymore.
Exactly.
It's hallucinogenic.
And it's hilarious. What's hilarious about this is I love it because Yaphet Kotto is a wonderful,
amazing actor,
great villain as both Mr. Big and the politician. He pulls off both roles perfectly. And his death, is that the one that's the...
They stick those things that explode inside him and he blows up like a great big leather settee, doesn't he? He goes up against the roof and
that is an iconic death. And I think that what I do like, Moore plays it seriously, and he's out of time. So this is more in the funky Harlem of the early 70s. And of course, he's like a secret agent from 50s Britain. He's almost like something that's been dragged in from an Ealing comedy in Harlem.
You're right, and then we haven't mentioned the motorboat.
Oh, there's
the motorboats. That is probably my favourite action sequences.
The crocodile sequence.
The crocodile, all of that. And I can remember when they're coming out of the water and going across the land and back in, and I can remember saying to my dad, you can't do that. And my dad goes, they're jet boats. Right. Because what's a jet boat? Because it hasn't got a propeller on the back, it's pulling the... So when it comes out, it's got the trajectory, there's no thing at the... What, so they can really do that? Yeah, they are really doing that. What they really do... I can remember this conversation. They're really doing that. And then... is this the one with the sheriff in as well? It's the first appearance. There's the first appearance, isn't it? And he does crop up later, doesn't he? But the sheriff's one of the great James Bond characters. I don't know why, he's just brilliant. It's all Smokey and the Bandit suddenly, isn't it?
Yeah, but they pull it off because the overall film works. It's thrilling, it's scary, it's funny, it's ridiculous. And I quite like the idea, because actually going back to one of your points, which I'd not thought of before, is that Diamonds Are Forever. It's Bond trying to compete in this conspiratorial early 70s. And you could argue that actually Skyfall, this is the whole nature of Bond in an era of the internet. How does this figure exist in this era of history when every value it stood for in the 60s has been trashed? And I think it's kind of, interesting what you're saying, but this, it's because he plays it just as this cold killer, this ridiculous womanizer, because again, one of the opening sequences, remember, he has the magnetic watch that pulls down. He's using Q's inventions in a way that Q did not really intend. Was it Madeline Smith as his first conquest? I'm not sure.
Yes,
she's a very 70s.
Yeah, one of the great 70s actresses.
And also with this film, why I like it, it's one of the few Bonds that never overstays its welcome. I think it's one of the shortest Bond. Of course, somebody's probably going to correct me and say it's actually 3.5 hours. But if it is,
it just shows how great it is. You are right. This is brilliant.
Yeah, it's a sinewy, muscly Bond that just goes from one scene to another scene to another scene to another scene. And obviously, we've got New Orleans. We've got, again, this America, this vivid technical America of the early 70s, which was so exotic, I think, if you're living in Warrington in 1973.
I think with this one, it's almost got, rather than aping martial arts films like Man with the Golden Dawn, what this does is it just wholeheartedly goes to whole genres and back in. A Spy Love Me does this as well. You'll get a moment where they'll be riding across the desert, they're in Egypt but they're on horses and they've got
Lawrence of Arabia.
And then it does all that, and this one does that brilliantly. And I think it goes beyond a normal Bond, and a lot of these characters are absolutely fantastic in themselves. And you want to, it's not what Bond normally does, but you want to follow it because there's these things going on all the way through.
And it's the perfect collision of 70s music with 70s Bond and the 70s sexual attitudes. And of course, you do have, always in Bond, I think sometimes there is an aspect of feminine power, and I don't think Bond is ever a racist. Obviously Bond sleeps with women of any variety in the films,
and that's the only way you could gauge if he's a racist.
Yeah, I think so.
There's no other way
at all. And in this film, the black actors carry the bulk of it. They're the serious actors. Yaphet Kotto is an amazing powerhouse performer. So they're given almost equal billing, equal importance, equal intensity, but more plays it. And I think partly because he is almost like this, as I've said, 50s Ealing Bond thrown into a world that's so different.
Well, you're right about the Saint.
Yeah.
Because everyone had come through the Saint. I mean, we were still watching the black and white Saint in the 70s, I remember. So I got it as well. But the Saint is quintessentially English. It's a certain type of, almost like Bulldog Drummond type of hero.
Yeah.
So they've taken that and transferred it into Bond. And, Roger Moore's never dangerous like Sean Connery, but he's very funny.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we love about those Bonds.
Well, he's funny, and I think this is as lean and mean as he gets in some ways. There are scenes, as we said, in Octopussy and Spy Who Loved Me, where he can be quite serious, but this one, there's a hunger. I think there's a hunger in the film, there's an excitement, and it just doesn't seem to have many wasted seconds. One of the things I can say, that even with the Bonds I love, Skyfall, Casino Royale, there aren't only wasted seconds, there are wasted 10-minute sequences where you're waiting for something to move the plot on or move the character on. This, it doesn't. It just jumps and jumps. And as I said, this Harlem of the 70s is so evocative. This Florida of the 70s is so evocative. And it's a really interesting storyline. It's not a classic cliched Smersh.
No, yes,
Storyline.
I think that's you're
It's
right.
fresh.
I think that you've put a good argument in for that.
So number one, and we'll go to Smersh probably, I'm going to go for Goldfinger because it's where Bond becomes Bond. It all clicks. The genius of Dr. No, the promise of From Russia with Love, they get it right in one single film. And anything from the scene that we all remember as being truly terrifying, because this is horror. Because it's unlike anything we'd seen before, when the body, as it's surely eaten, is covered in gold paint. And of course I didn't know this when I was that age, that you would suffocate in your own skin. And as an idea that is horrifying to a young child or even as an adult. So it has scenes that look astonishing, ideas that are completely fresh, the style of the Bond. This is 64, is it? Or is it 65?
64, I think, yeah.
And it's defining films to come for the next few years. Again, we have the bullet to the centre of the eye, which is brilliant. A tremendously atmospheric opening. I think it's explosions in this opening, isn't it? There's a Turkish dancer, I think. Again, Bond imperiled. It just gets everything right, and once more the exotic locations, the cinematography, obviously the section where it looks as if he's about to be cut in half by the laser. The dubbing for Goldfinger is superb. This has got Honor Blackman, hasn't it, this one as well? And she'd come from the Avengers, so there's a bit of a tie-in with some of the Brit adventure series of the time that you see, with more from the Saint coming in. And obviously Patrick McNee later. I don't know whether I can say very much about it, other than I think if you want to see a film that epitomises why James Bond was appealing and why it defined an era, watch Goldfinger, because it's a great film. You know, this is a great film in the way that Hitchcock's The Birds or North by Northwest is a great film, and it's a great Bond film.
Yes. He gets given a car, and it's got all the tricks in it, and he uses them all. And you, as a kid, you can tick them off. And when he's driving that car around, I think he's in Switzerland or somewhere like that, it's absolutely beautiful. No blue screens, he's really there, and he is at once being chased and chasing a woman in the car all at the same time. And he's got gadgets and all that type of stuff. I love all that. Gert Frobe is one of the greatest Bond villains as well, because he brings us an attitude to it which is summed up in the sequence when they are trying to cut him in half in the laser, and Bond says, well, what do you want? And he goes, you know, what do you expect from me? And he goes, I expect you to die. And that's another classic line. And Bond then looks terrified, like, oh my God, he's just chopping me in half for no reason. And he starts to bargain with him. It's terrifying, you know.
Odd Job as well. You know, we forget there are so many clever ideas in this. The bowler hat that can kill. Yeah,
like the bowler hat boomerang, which it kills him in the end because he gets stuck in the electrics. And they try and rob Fort Knox, which is a brilliant idea of a film anyway. Is this is Pussy Galore? And
yes, it is.
And the aeroplane bits.
Admittedly not the best name. Or is it?
I don't know. I would say that, I mean, she could well, after Ursula Andress, be the second greatest Bond girl, I think. Because she's scary and dangerous, but you feel that Bond's attractive, you know, sexual magnetism might turn her to good.
And this is the thing, you know, of course we now say that when they use people like Ava Green, they used great actors to play the Bond girls, but actually I'd argue they did it from the off. And people like Honor Blackman, they're strong characters, they're great actors. So it's not like they're giving fluff roles to female characters.
Yeah, it's without doubt. I mean, I've thought for the whole of my life that Goldfinger is the greatest Bond, and it's quite ahead of everybody else. And these are all great films, but that's the one Bond film. If you're just going to have one in your collection, it would be Goldfinger.
Yeah, and as a kid, I did have the Corgi with the ejector seat.
I did as well.
As everybody knows, you used it too often; it never worked again.
Yes, and also the little bloke that was permanently that you found under the settee. You lost him quite quickly.
I mean, I always found mine because I was an only child. I was kind of lucky. I was careful with it, but my ejector seat, probably within a week of me having the car.
Yeah, I think I had 3 Aston Martin DB5 Matchbox. Yeah, I think over the years. I mean, they were worth something now.
We were down to the company director, so I understand.
Well, I broke it, and then I said, "Could I have another one?" I can remember saving up for the Kojak car, which came with the Crocker.
I'd love that.
It was great.
I would have loved that. But
We're at the end. We've done it. And it's a long slog. I don't think we need to draw it out any more than this. We've been going for like 2 hours.
You're kidding.
No, it's a 2 hours video. I'm going to edit all
Are we going to
this.
break it up?
No! I'm going to edit it like this.
See,
Stick
if
it
the
on the
album
main channel.
is, this would be 6 episodes.
Not on my channel, it's not.
Okay.
I'm here to upset them.